There is a pattern, discernible pattern, of Democratic officials seemingly trying to convince you, the public, to not believe what you saw and what you heard.
The Joe Biden we saw is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half when the president has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show.
67% of voters said they considered Biden too old to be president. And that Biden number is a number we've never seen for any candidate before.
Father Time runs everyone down eventually, and he called President Biden. But this is not new. What is new is that Biden is not likely to win, and that may take the Democrat ship down with him. So there's panic in the House and among swing state senators that Biden will hurt their own reelection bids. But he says he's not going anywhere in his exclusive interview with ABC News anchor George Stephanopoulos.
I don't think anybody's more qualified to be president or win this race than me.
If you can be convinced that you cannot defeat Donald Trump, will you stand down?
It depends if the Lord Almighty comes down and tells me that, I might do that.
And if you stay in and Trump is elected, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about.
Joining us are Ned Ryun, founder of American Majority, and Tudor Dixon, a former candidate for governor in the great state of Michigan. Tudor, House and Senate candidates are not going to sit idly by while Joe Biden is a millstone around their necks. So what are they supposed to do? I mean, they can't win with him. How do you dump your nominee?
Oh, look, in the words of my grandmother, you made this bed, now you have to lie in it. They don't have a choice. I mean, the fact that we're even giving them an option, the primary is over. They chose a closed primary. This is their nominee. You can't say, guess what? Polling is bad. We don't like the things that he's saying. Actually, we're not going to use him anymore. We're going to get a new one. This is where they are. They have to stay here. The fact that we are even acknowledging that there might be a Newsom, there might be a Kamala, there's another option for them. There is no other legal option for them, and they have to stop acting like there is.
Ned, saying it would take the audible voice of God for him to drop out is a pretty high standard. So let's just assume, arguendo, that God decides not to attend the Democrat National Convention. What are they going to do then?
Well, I think the next 14 days are going to be telling, Trey, in which we've seen reports from Bloomberg that on July 21st, the Credentials Committee for the DNC that meets in August is going to have a meeting, and they've talked about nominating Biden a full month before the convention. So I think Biden's got a 14-day window in which he has to hold on. And I have to tell you, as much as people might have found that ABC News interview a little disconcerting, I think the Biden camp is looking at that saying, hey, he showed that he can hold on. They're looking at some of the morning consult Bloomberg poll numbers, showing him leading in Michigan, showing him leading in Wisconsin. And I think they feel like they've got enough ammo to hold on through July 21st. So I think July 21st, people should circle that date. If the Credentials Committee endorses Biden, game over. He's the nominee.
Tudor, I struggle to read my own mind most of the time, so I certainly can't read somebody else's like Joe Biden's. But can he really honestly believe that he's the same person mentally he was 4 years ago? Because if he believes that, he is the only one on the planet who does.
I think that he doesn't want anybody else to believe that he's not. I think there is a chance that he believes that. From all reports that we've heard, he is someone who is has a lot of self-pride, is someone who's very hard to convince that he's not capable of something. But look, you're also convinced by the voices around you. They're very powerful. Having your wife say, you've got this, having your son, having your staff. And he's in a situation where there's a massive amount of staff around him saying, sir, you're the guy. You're the only guy that can beat Donald Trump. And the funny thing about that right now is it might be true. He might be the only person that can go out there and go head to head, because bringing someone else out there now would be disastrous for them. They have no preparation. They're not ready. So right now, this might be their best chance, and it's a pretty bad chance.
Ned, let's entertain that possibility for a second. Vice President Kamala Harris was put in charge of the border, which is a disaster. She killed criminal justice reform by doing what is actually impossible, which is make Tim Scott mad. And her likability, her favorability is somewhere between
Correct.
water moccasins and bubonic plague. So how is she a better top of the ticket than what they have?
She's not. I mean, you're looking at the nation's leading purveyor of word salads, who I would remind people in the Democratic primary of 2020, with the most hardcore members of the Democratic base, she had 3% support at her high water mark. She's not a better candidate, and I think people are trying to gaslight themselves into it. But, Trey, I have to be very clear on this front. I think people are looking at politics like it's 2004, not 2024. There's been a seismic shift in political elections, so I don't really care who the nominee is.
It'll be fascinating to see whether or not President Trump factors in who he is actually running against as he picks his vice presidential running mate. But thank you both for joining us on a Sunday night. Look forward to visiting with you again very soon.
Thanks, Trey.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.